Even though Sandra was aware that Michael's actions were insane, she felt guilty watching her only son sleep in the police cell. She stayed up all night reflecting on her mistakes, wishing she could turn back the hands of time, but it was too late. The next day, without informing Chijoke, she went to the police station and bailed her son out. The moment Michael stepped out with his shirt hung on his shoulders, Sandra's heart shattered into pieces. "My son, I'm sorry for everything. It is all my fault. I should have raised you better. I shouldn't have allowed you to sleep in this unhealthy environment. Please find a place in your heart to forgive me," Sandra pleaded. "Mama, it's enough. I still love you despite what happened, but it's unfortunate that you don't feel the same way for me. But it's fine. I will learn to live like this. Let's go home, Mama," Michael replied. The drive home was emotional and full of silence. Michael sat in the back seat, thinking of what to do next. "I think I should push harder. I won't back down," he said to himself. When they pulled into the driveway, Michael stepped out of the car and looked up at the house he once called home. It no longer felt like one. It was a cage, just like the prison he had left behind. But this time, he wasn't the only one trapped. Sandra and Chijoke would feel his pain soon enough. Immediately after entering the house, Michael summoned his parents. "Mama, Papa, I'm just here to apologize for everything I did. It just dawned on me that I was wrong, so wrong. How could I think of having an affair with my own mother? It is not done anywhere. Please find a place in your heart to forgive me." Sandra's eyes welled up, and she rushed forward to hug him. "Oh, my son, God has heard my prayers. I knew you would change." Michael flinched a bit, but returned the embrace, forcing a small smile on his face. "You will see, Michael, everything will be fine," Sandra said. However, behind the facade of repentance were devilish plans cooking up. That night, Michael lay on his bed, tossing and turning. The picture of how the police dragged him away kept replaying in his mind. "They will pay. They will surely pay for everything," he whispered to himself. The first step of his plan had already begun, and his parents didn't even know. Michael woke up the next morning, putting on the character of a perfect son trying to make amends. He swept the front yard, greeted his neighbors politely, and even helped Sandra in the kitchen. His once rebellious character was now replaced with a calm, obedient facade. He offered to attend therapy sessions and came home with stories about how much he was learning to control his anger. "Therapy is really helping me, Mama," Michael said one evening as he set the dining table for dinner. "I didn't realize how much I needed to take responsibility for my actions." Sandra's heart swelled with pride. "My son, I knew this day would come. I knew you were still the good boy I raised." Michael faked a smile and continued what he was doing. Chijoke, however, wasn't moved by Michael's sudden repentance. He watched him carefully, noting the precision in his action and the calculated way he spoke. "People don't change overnight," Chijoke muttered to himself. He had seen too much in life to trust Michael's sudden transformation. One Saturday morning, Michael volunteered to wash Chijoke's car, something he had never done before. "Let me help you, Dad," he said with a sponge in his hand. Chijoke nodded, but kept a close eye on him. "Why now?" Chijoke finally asked. "Why all this effort to be different?" Michael paused, then turned to face his father with a calm expression. "Because I want to fix what I have broken," he said. But as he spoke, a flashback surged in his mind. He thought of the good times he spent with his mother and how they showered together and did everything together. He also thought about how Chijoke did everything in his power to separate them. The memory burned like a fresh wound, feeding the hatred in his heart. Chijoke squinted at Michael, unconvinced. "Well, we will see," he said, walking back into the house. The next day, Michael drove his car to meet Marty, his therapist. Michael had been visiting Marty for over a month now. However, the therapy Michael received wasn't something that would better his life. They were teachings on how to get back at his parents. Michael crossed paths with Matthew one cool evening when he went out to get some fresh air. As he strolled through a local street around his vicinity, he met a group of boys drinking and smoking. He decided to stop and greet them. He was very bold and didn't mind that they might hurt him. "Good evening, sir," he greeted. Matthew looked at him from head to toe and wondered what this small boy was doing in their midst. "Come on, where did you buy your Audacity from? Because I want to purchase one." Michael couldn't comprehend what Matthew said and quickly went on his knees, begging him to take him as their member. He cried bitterly and explained his predicament to Matthew. After much persuasion, Matthew accepted him into the group. However, Matthew had a plan. He only wanted to use Michael the way he liked until he was ready to dispose of him. "It's okay, stand up. You are now one of us, but you must pay the registration fee. Our membership is 500,000. To Michael, 500K was chicken change. He quickly transferred the money without thinking twice. Sharp guy. Matthew held him as he received the alert. From that day onward, Michael kept visiting the gang. He would lie to his parents that he was going for therapy sessions, but he was going elsewhere. He followed the gang to pick pockets in the area and engaged in several other dubious activities. Within a month of hanging out with the gang, Michael developed a tough personality, which was all he needed to get back at his parents. He had planned what he wanted to do and was only waiting for the right time to strike. Michael made life unbearable for his parents, especially his mother. He teamed up with his gang members and robbed her on her way back from the supermarket. They collected a huge sum of money after beating her mercilessly. Sandra returned home that day with bruises all over her body. When Michael came back, he acted surprised and quickly rushed his mother to a nearby hospital. He paid for everything and ensured she was taken good care of. But deep down, Michael felt a wave of satisfaction running through his body. "This is just the tip of the iceberg," he whispered to himself. The next target was his father, but he decided to take things slowly. Things took a drastic turn for the worse. Michael teamed up with his gang members to give Sandra a special Valentine's gift. Michael waited that day to be sure his father had gone to work. Then he went into the kitchen and prepared breakfast for his mother. "Mama, please stand up and eat. I have brought breakfast for you," he said. Sandra, who was still weak due to the last incident, managed to stand up. "Thank you, my son. You are so sweet." Michael watched his mother consume the meal he had laced with sleeping tablets with so much excitement. Within minutes, Sandra fell asleep as though she was struck by a spell. Michael quickly notified his gang members and they arrived immediately. That day, each one of them entered into Sandra's room while Michael stood by the corner recording the scene. Sandra, who was unconscious, didn't even notice what was going on. After they were done, Michael forwarded the video to Chijioke using a fake number. Immediately, Chijioke saw the video and rushed back home with so much anger in him. "So, this is what you do when I'm not around?" Chijioke shouted. Sandra, who had just regained consciousness, looked at Chijioke with confusion. "I don't understand what you are talking about. What have I done this time? Woman, don't ask me silly questions. Do I look like I'm joking? Please just let me be. I don't understand what you are saying," Sandra said. Chijioke brought out his phone and played the video to Sandra. Sandra was shocked and terrified to watch herself being mishandled by a group of boys. "What are you saying?" Chijioke screamed. "Chijioke, this is a setup. It's impossible. I can't do such a thing." No matter the explanation Sandra gave, Chijioke refused to listen. That night, he slept at his friend's house. Sandra tried to recall everything that happened that day, but she couldn't remember. The only thing that came to her mind was the meal that Michael served her. However, when she woke up that day, she felt some weird sensation in her private area, but quickly dismissed it as a usual recurring yeast infection. However, Michael was only beginning to deal with his parents. He had more sinister plans in store for them. He had finally concluded what he intended to do with Chijioke, but before that, he had one last thing to do to his mother. Michael took it upon himself to take care of her after the incident. I know it's not your fault. I don't blame you for anything that happened. I know you are innocent, but maybe you should try not to cross my path next time. What do you mean by that? Sandra asked curiously. You heard me right, Mama. Don't cross my path, or something worse might happen to you. It was then it dawned on Sandra that Michael was behind it all. Michael, so you are behind this? Sandra said, tears streaming down her face. Yes, Mama, I'm behind it all. I was also involved when you were attacked on your way back from the supermarket. Do you think I will forgive you? Never. You don't know how heartbroken I was when you chose Dad over me. You sat down and watched me sleep in a cell. But I thought you had changed. I thought you forgave me. It was all part of my game, Mama, Michael said. The meal you are consuming will be your very last. You will suffer the way I did. Sandra, who was already terrified, quickly dialed Chijioke's number, begging him to come back home. Michael didn't stop her because it was all part of his plans. Before Sandra knew what was happening, she started experiencing severe stomach pain. It was so painful that she started screaming and shouting for help. Michael quickly pinned her to the bed and entered her forcefully. Sandra screamed, but no one came to her rescue. After 5 minutes, she gave up the ghost. After Michael noticed his mother had passed away, he quickly came down from her body. He had accomplished his first mission. However, he waited patiently for Chijioke to arrive. When Chijioke came home and saw the scene, he quickly called the police. But before he could finish explaining, Michael grabbed him and gave him the beating of his life. After that, he released fire on him and unalived his father. Michael quickly covered their dead bodies and escaped before the police arrived. However, as he ran to his gang members, a moving trailer lost control and knocked him down on the spot. Michael passed away. This story teaches us that unchecked love and lack of boundaries can lead to destructive consequences. While a mother's love for her child is natural and nurturing, failing to establish clear limits can foster dependency, confusion, and harmful behavior. Furthermore, the story warns against ignoring early signs of troubling behavior and dismissing advice from loved ones, as this can compound issues and lead to irreversible damages. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe to NaijaTrends TV for more stories.